So many people is one emergency away from being able to pay their bill.
How do you go from delivering mail to getting mailbox money?
You want real estate to be passive, so where you're investing and you're going to receive that money every month.
I feel like it's such a negative connotation around Section 8. Do you know why that is? And can you help debunk that myth if it is a myth?
What are those high level steps from the moment you decide you want to acquire your first property to kind of like you actually closing the deal and making that mailbox?
Especially out of state.
So
And what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Millionaire Money Show. And I can tell you, this is going to be one of those ones because we had some technical difficulties before getting started. That's just the devil trying to block this sauce y'all about to get, okay? So I'm going to do the formal intro. And as you know, we want to make sure that you know who our guest is. So Dana Christian is a dynamic real estate investor, educator, entrepreneur who turned adversity into generational opportunity, from growing up in the projects of New York City and becoming a teen mom to building a successful real estate business with over 100 deals and 5,000 students. Right? Dana's story is a testament to resilience and purpose. Now based in Atlanta, she empowers others to create financial freedom through real estate education and mentorship, showing that your starting point does not define your destiny. And with no further ado, Dana, welcome to the show.
thank you for having me.
How are you? As you can see, I don't know what Carter was doing.
Hey, look.
He didn't get the memo. Today's Money Green.
Money Green.
Green Day. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? But now thank you so much for coming to Dallas. We appreciate you, and we know it's going to be one of those ones.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So before the show started, we talked about you being a Section 8 resident, and you're now a Section 8 real estate investor.
Yes.
Full circle.
Yes.
Full circle.
Full circle. Full circle.
So we hear a lot about Section 8, especially in the news today. Do you believe that investing in real estate through Section 8 is a good investment option, and why?
Okay, so I do believe it's a good investment option. One, because you don't get guaranteed rent the first of the month. And there's a lot going on in the news saying that they're not ending it, they cutting it. Right?
Okay.
So there are over 5 million people on Section 8. If they cutting it 40%, that's still 3 million houses, right? That's still 3 million vouchers.
Yeah.
I only got 60.
Yeah.
Right? So, you think about it, right? Most people is buying maybe 20 houses.
Yeah.
You can still fall within that 3 million. And I know in Atlanta, it's this company, BlackRock.
Yeah.
They're buying thousands.
I saw it in the
houses,
news. Yeah.
Right? So, sometimes we get caught up with the noise
Yeah.
and don't want to invest.
Right.
But I always tell people getting laid off from jobs, but you getting up going to work every day. But you second guessing about investing in real estate, something going to change your life.
Right.
And even in 2017, they talked about cutting Section 8 then. And it's a proposal, right? So just imagine if somebody would have invested there then and even would have bought 5 houses,
Right.
How much money they would have made in those 8 years.
Right.
And what would those houses be worth, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes we can't get caught up with the hearsay. And my thing is, once stuff happened, that's when I'm gonna deal with it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna still invest.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get this money.
Yeah.
And when something happened, I'm gonna adjust. And people always need a place to live.
Yeah. Why do you think there's so much negative connotation about investing in Section 8? I feel like when people think like, oh, Section 8, like, oh man, I don't want to. It's gonna be a bad neighborhood, or my residents or my tenants are gonna be, people. I feel like it's such a negative connotation around Section 8 investing. Do you know why that is, and can you help debunk that myth if it is a myth?
So I think one, the people that's talking never invested in real estate.
Okay.
That's
right.
the big part.
And if they did, you might have a bad tenant. I had a bad cash tenant, right? And you know that with Section 8, if a person mess up your house, they will lose their voucher. So to me, it's more security.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so try it, right? And like I said, I had a cash tenant that was bad before, and at least you don't have to chase down the money. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You want real estate to be passive, right? So where you're investing and you're going to receive that money every month.
Gotcha.
Sometimes on the 31st, depending on the month.
Yeah.
Oh, it's in my account already. I ain't mad at that.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
So I always tell people just try it. Like I've been investing in real estate since 2006.
Okay, so you've been in the game. OG.
Oh, yeah,
So next year,
2006.
what was 21 years? Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you go from delivering mail to getting mailbox money? So let's break that down.
Okay.
You know what? So I remember 2006. I was working at the post office. I was working overnight.
Yeah.
One night I broke out in a sweat. My heart was beating fast. I thought I was having a heart attack.
Yeah.
And all I can think about was all the years I wasted working, not spending time with my kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but what can I do? I can't quit. Post office pay good.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I'm like, I can't quit. I dropped out of high school in the ninth grade. I have a GED. Only experience I had was a cashier, and I was not about to be working in Walmart because they don't pay like the post office.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm thinking, what can I do? What can I do? And one day I'm watching HCTV, and I'm watching all week. I was like, wait a minute, I can do this. All I have to do is find a house, get some money, and I can invest. So that's what started me. But I will say that watching a television show 5 days a week for an hour did not teach me everything I needed to know.
Right.
But that's what got me started.
Gotcha.
You know, investing. So I did my first fix and flip, and I realized I gave myself another job. So then I went into I went into buying whole properties.
Yep.
Yeah.
And stuff. So yeah, so that's kind of what started. So I was kind of like forced because what else was I going to do? And I had
Gotcha.
children to take care of.
That makes sense. And so many people, another myth in real estate is like, well, the draw to real estate is you can touch it, right? It feels real, right? And so I think people take that a step too far and they say, well, I can only invest where I live. So then they get stuck in this rut of, well, maybe I live in an area where it's too expensive for my budget to invest. Can you debunk that myth that it is possible to build your real estate portfolio even outside of where you live? 'Cause I know you invest all over, right?
Yes. So in 2000, so I started in Atlanta. 2017, I had an injury on the job, right?
Okay.
And I started going to real estate meetups. And I was at one meetup, and somebody's mentioned about Baltimore, that the properties in Baltimore was cheaper in the renters mall.
Yeah.
So of course I went down the rabbit hole looking for properties in Baltimore, and finally June 2018 I closed on my first property in Baltimore.
Okay.
So I bought it from an auction. I did online research, looking at the property taxes, looking at the area. Didn't even go to Baltimore.
Oh, so you just
So
doing
you
all
didn't
online
see it.
research.
I just did it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I bid $70,000 for the auction. It had a tenant in it, paying $1,200, and the property was worth $134. Right. Then right after I bid, the negativity starts setting in. Like, girl, nobody in Baltimore. You never even been to Baltimore. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? The numbers make sense, and I'm gonna go. And even at that time, I was still working at the post office. And I just happened to close my birthday weekend. So two of my ex-co-workers was like, what you doing for your birthday? I said, I'm going to Baltimore. They said, for what? I said, I'm closing the house. Who you know in Baltimore? I was like, nobody. Suppose they don't pay. I said, suppose they do. The lady is still in that house.
It was already, it's rented already.
It was rented, and she's still in it. This was June 2018.
Wow.
And she pays every month on time, no problem. But I'm like, suppose I would have listened to, the people that they wasn't investors, they was workers.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You have to have a different type of mindset. So that's what started me investing out of state in Baltimore. And then I don't know how I started looking in Cleveland, and that's why I hold most of my portfolio is in Cleveland.
Okay.
I went to Cleveland, Ohio, investing in Detroit, Alabama. Like, I'm gonna go where it makes sense.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and so you mentioned the numbers on the property. So you bought it for $70,000, right? And I just heard this real estate formula that as long as the rent is more than 1% of the purchase price, you were in good shape.
So I do more than 1%.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying.
Yeah. So my thing is return on investment. So return on investment, right? So even that property right there. So, and I was thinking, like, how should I pay for it? Should I cash or fund it? Because I paid cash because of the unknown, right? But think about it, $70,000 in the bank. How much interest you getting on that? 1%. Investing in that property gave me automatically 17% return on investment.
Yeah.
So I like at least 14% or higher.
Okay. That's cash or cash return, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then again, the property was worth 134. So 134,000. So automatically, my money just about doubled.
Wow. Yeah.
How were you able to get a property at $70,000 that's worth $130?
So, from an auction. So I buy a lot of properties from auctions.
Okay.
Can you explain how that works?
So this was Alex and Cooper, right? So an auction is either somebody's losing it to mortgage, or either they losing it to taxes.
Okay.
Right. So every county in every state have auctions. Right. People don't pay their property taxes. You lose the house. Right. You don't pay your mortgage. You lose the house. Right, so it just go up to foreclosure, and you just bid on it. They tell you what the starting bid is. Normally, the starting bid would start with what the person owe. right? But it could
okay.
go up higher. But
Gotcha.
you definitely want to know how to do your research because you don't want to overbid.
Yeah.
Right.
And that happened to me one time in 2008. I was in Atlanta, and everything I went for the auction was auction.com. Everything I went to go get, I got outbidded. And I'm like, I'm leaving here with something.
Yeah.
I'm leaving with something.
Here with something. So they had a list of houses on the paper, told you what the houses was worth.
Yep.
So they said this house was worth $365,000. And I used to drive for dollars. That's when you're driving around looking for property.
Yeah.
So I knew the street. I was like, yeah, they doing rehabs over there. They said the property's worth $365,000, bid at $87,000. So excited.
Yep.
After the auction, go to see this house. Driving down Ivor Street, driving, past over the railroad track where they was not doing rehab.
Oh.
It was 4 houses on that block. I'm like, what did I just buy?
Yeah.
And, I went all the way into strategy mode because I filed bankruptcy in 2000. We in 2008, just got my credit back right. Back then, I didn't know anything about buying properties in the business name, so this was in my personal name.
Okay.
So I'm like, I'm just have to, pay the mortgage. But we put a 4-rent sign in the ground. It was rent ready, clean, safe, and functional.
Yep.
And somebody moved in. She stayed in that house for 16 years. The only reason she moved was because we told her we were selling it. Because now the houses on the block is $600,000 selling. So we rehabbed it, and now we Airbnb, and I sold it to my business, and we Airbnb. So every time, like even going into these other states, I invest in the city, right? So I have to bring myself back to that day. Even if it's an abandoned house next door, somebody's going to live in there and be happy.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
So, and a lot of times when people invest, they get caught up in their emotions. Like, I wouldn't live there. Yeah,
It's not you're not gonna live there,
and
bro.
that's
It's
what
like,
people don't understand when investment is about the money. What's the return on investment to make
Right.
it a good deal?
Right. Versus overdoing it, thinking that I would live, I would get this grand countertop.
And that's how I was when I first started.
Yeah.
That's how I was when I first started.
And what's interesting about it, because it could seem like it's coming from a good place. Like, I just want to make this a really nice thing, but like, you're killing your margins.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's not lost on me that you've taught over 5,000 students. Right. So you went out, did the work, made it happen in real time, and then now taking that back to the community so people can do it. What are some of the biggest gaps that you're seeing and people connecting the dots on how this can work for them? Like, since you taught so many students, I know you probably see trends.
So a lot people just don't believe believe that people like them invest, right? Because a lot of my audience come from the hood, the background, and not really don't know anyone that invested, right? So they don't believe it's true. So, one thing I just tell people, like, if I did it, like, I'm a 9th grade dropout, right? If I did it, you know what I'm saying? Anybody can do it. I always say I'm not the smartest one, but nobody's going to outwork me.
Come on now.
And nobody's going to believe in themselves more than I believe in myself, right? So I always tell my students, we got to bet on ourselves, right? And bet is for B is for believe, E is get the education, and T is for transform. Transform into that person you need to be. If it's cutting out TV for a while, saving up some money, and I'm big on using credit cards, but get your credit right so that you can invest. But I have a lot of mentees that's out here getting it.
So just to dispel like the limiting belief on process, just at a high level, if someone's listening to this episode, they're like, I hear what she's saying. Maybe I'll get her to teach me one day, but just at a high level, someone says from step 1 to however many steps it takes, what are those high level steps from the moment you decide you want to acquire your first property, right, to kind of like you actually closing the deal and making that move?
especially out of state.
So, I always say 7 steps, right? First is pick a state.
Okay.
Right, so you want to pick a state that's affordable, right? Because you have to invest where you can afford, right? So pick a state where you can afford, and most times that's the Midwest, right? So that might not be where you live at. Then set up an LLC in that state because we definitely want to buy in an entity. Then open up a bank account in that state because you can get business credit cards for your down payment, right? Then you want to go onto a website like Zillow. Right, and find a rent-ready house because I don't recommend people just starting out buying.
Trying to fix uppers.
Fixing up. Don't know contractors.
I'm
dealing
then
some BS right now. Literally.
Go to HUDuser.gov and see how much rent you can collect for that.
HUDuser.gov. Okay.
Yeah, and see how much rent you can collect.
Okay.
Right. Then you want to go to. Then you want to. Oh Lord. Then you want to. You want to close on the property. Okay. Right? You want to apply for a DSCR loan, right? Okay. So that's a rental loan. So they will lend you 75 to 80% of how much you need. Okay. So the money you got from the credit card, that's where your 25% gonna come.
Got you.
And then you go to Thumbtack and find a property manager and let them rent it out. Like, it's really
Right.
I got to stop saying it's simple,
Right.
but it is simple.
Speaking of which, you just touched on something, right?
Yeah.
So you said, because you just glazed over it, right? You said that's where you're going to get the money from the credit card. So I'm connecting the dot here. So first, you're buying properties in your business name.
I'm buying properties in my business name.
And it sounds like you're using business credit.
So I'm using business credit cards. So some properties, right, that I will buy using business credit cards, right? And then some properties I will use a DSC along with the business credit card.
Okay.
But I always say credit cards is a short-term strategy, right? Because even though it's 0% interest for the first 12 to 18 months, so once the interest is over, that period is going to go up. Then you can refinance the DSC loan. So it's just different strategies that you can use. Using other people's money. I'm big on other people's money.
And what are some of the other benefits that I know we talked before the podcast. What are some other benefits that come from leveraging that credit card to buy the property?
And how do you get the money off the credit card?
You can't.
I was about to say, you can't just swipe the card at closing, can you?
No, you cannot. Okay, so first to your question. So you get all those points.
Okay.
So travel. So right here now on points.
Yeah.
Right. I took my daughter to Dubai, business class points. Paris, business class.
You still gotta
points.
get to Dubai, by the way.
We gotta get to Dubai.
Yeah. So
right. So just using those points now. You cannot swipe a credit card at a title company. So it's a website called Plastique with a Q at the end.
Okay.
You can use them to pay anyone who normally does not accept credit cards. Okay. Now you will pay 3%, right? But you keep your 0% interest.
Yeah.
So I use them to pay the contractor, the house, and even if I'm buying a house, let's just say for $50,000, and I don't have a $50,000 credit card, and I have say $20,000 on 3 credit cards, then you just break the payment up. And they wire it directly to the title company. So I've been using plastic since 2018.
Okay, so let me just get this straight so our listeners can connect the dots. Right, so you take the business credit card. Since you can't swipe it, you use a platform called Plastique. Now you can, even though you get charged 3% one time, you got the 0% interest that you can leverage for 12 to 18 months. Right, but you still, because you use the credit card, you still get the rewards points. Then you use that to fund your lifestyle.
Correct.
Oh man, we get spicy.
Yeah. I always say that I have free houses because if I didn't use any of my own money, if I use a credit card to buy a house, right, and the tenant is paying back the credit cards, I didn't use any of my money.
Yeah.
And then even going an extra point, right? So we had a house that we bought from the auction, about $36,000. Rehab was $56,000, right? So purchase rehab with the credit card. Then refinance to a DSCR loan. That pay off the credit card and still put about $20,000 in the pocket. And now Section 8 is paying the rent. It's a free house.
Free house.
Yeah.
It's a free house.
I love that.
Well, you either pay with cash or you pay with information,
Correct.
right? You know what I'm saying? Like that's why getting the strategies and learning how to strategically acquire properties with money not using money out of your pocket is a strategy that only the 1% know because other people just don't learn.
And the people in her program.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? And it's so crazy because when I talk about credit cards and people be like, well, I don't want to go into debt. But I'm like, is bad debt good debt? But you will go into debt to buy a car, you can't afford, a house, shopping, vacation. But when it's time to make money, right, we second guess. But I totally understand because, nobody ever taught me about credit. My grandmother told me never co-sign and pay my bills on time and gave me a Macy's credit card to shop on the girls. That's what led to bankruptcy.
My Macy's was my first credit card too. What
is you want to get no debt, but you want to give me this Macy's credit card? Like,
So and that's the thing. Nobody was taught really how to leverage credit to build wealth.
Yeah, and I think that shout out to Myron because he says this, and this is my first time really looking at debt this way. He was like, in our community, we're so like, be debt free, be debt free, be debt free. Well, debt free is just back to zero.
Yep, correct.
Right? And so your whole life, you're racing to get back to zero. And that's why I think in the poverty mindset is I just want to be debt free and then just have a clean slate. But wealthy people understand the purpose of debt is to use debt to buy assets and to use the money from the asset to pay off the debt. So you're just a middleman. You're arbitraging your life. You use money to buy real estate. You use the money from the rent to pay off the debt. You use money. You use debt to buy other education, and the education is an investment. You use the money you make from your education to pay off the debt, and that's just a faster way to get to where you want to go. Because you can pay out cash out of pocket and buy one property with $300,000 cash, then wait till you get another $300,000 and buy it again. But we call that taking a slow boat to China. And last time I checked, there's private jets, there's planes, there's faster ways to get places. It's a matter of how fast you want to get there.
Yeah, definitely.
I think so. I'm a big stock guy, right? Like real estate is my next frontier. I own a few properties, but a lot of people's reservation around real estate is the mantra of, termites, toilets, tenants, the headache associated with it. What are, number one, if that's a myth, to spell it, but if it's not, what processes do you put in place to manage and mitigate those realities?
Yeah. So property management.
Okay.
And let them deal with it.
What's the quote we say?
Who not how?
Right.
Yeah,
who not how?
Yeah, and that's so true, because a property manager charge you 10% of what you collect in rent. So let's just say you collect them.
You can talk. You can talk them down.
Yeah.
I got mine down.
But you know what? So if I'm charging $1,500 and they getting $150 in all the work that they do, especially because I ain't gonna lie, I'm buying the hood. So we got some characters.
Yeah.
We got some characters.
Yeah,
I'm buying
yeah.
houses under $100,000.
Yeah.
$50,000.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I got some characters, and she's dealing with them. She's
Bless her heart.
Yeah. So bless her heart.
She earned that 150.
So
Yeah.
she does.
Yeah.
Then I give her a little extra. So she have a lot of my units. She's managing, but it's worth it. It's worth it, because you want that peace of mind. And I hear that all the time. People say, I don't want to change no toilets, right? You're not becoming a plumber. You're becoming an investor. So why you worrying about toilets?
Right. Don't be a landlord, be an investor.
Yeah,
right.
be an investor. And this is the way that you really build wealth and can fund your lifestyle. And I think about when I got hurt at the post office, I actually went out of work 2018. They didn't pay me for 5 months.
Wow.
For 5 months, I didn't get paid, but because I had my rental properties, I was still able to pay my bills. And that's what kind of started me to teaching, because I'm like, how many people I know is still working, injured, and can't report the injury because they know that they're not going to get paid. So that's what started me to teaching, because I'm like, so many people is one emergency away from being able to pay their bills.
One income stream is too close to zero.
Yes.
And I think they always tell people we got insurance on our phones. We got insurance on our houses. We got insurance on our health. But what is the insurance on your income?
Yeah.
Right? It's another income stream,
Yeah.
right? You have to have insurance. But there is disability insurance. I guess I'm curious. The post office didn't offer that to you guys?
For extra.
Yeah.
For
And most people don't check that box.
Yeah,
You see,
most people
just
don't.
go through the motions of open enrollment time. And I tell my clients all the time, I'm like even with our advisory process, one of the most overlooked things is disability insurance, right? It's like, because if you get hurt or sick, right, you can't work. Where's the money come from? Like you said, you didn't get paid for 5-6 months. And so if you don't have that, the next best thing is having another income stream.
And then people would say, well, I don't have any money to start, right? Because honestly, I worked for the post office 25 years.
Yeah.
And when I bought the house in Baltimore, that was my last $70,000 in the bank.
Wow.
And how many people didn't really have that? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So I tell people start with what they have. I have a mentee that had bought a house for $900 in Detroit. She got an offer on it for $25,000. She didn't do anything to it. So I always tell people, start with what you have. Even if you buy the property, right? You don't have to do anything to it and just sell it, because we're buying at auctions.
Gotcha.
So I have so many mentees that get a credit card. Even if you have bad credit, you can get a credit card for $1,000 somewhere, $2,000 somewhere.
Right.
Even if you got to piece it together, five here,
Right.
5 here, and make it happen and stop making excuses, right?
Yeah. So speaking of excuses, as a single mother who dropped out of high school in 9th grade, and came from where you came from, what are some key mental frames that have helped you overcome the adversity that you had early on and helped you become the person that you are today? Because I feel like a lot of listeners, they hear this, but they still say, like, I can't do it. But you're a testament of somebody who the odds were stacked against her. And you found a way to overcome that. So can you tap into that mindset and understand what do you do and how do you reshape your mind to think the way you think now?
So when I think back, it was when I was 17 years old, and I had 2 daughters. And one night I needed 2 boxes of Pampers for my daughters. I needed a small and a large. I had enough money for 1 box of Pampers. I went in the bathroom and I was crying. I was a child. My mother didn't play that. You had those kids, you better figure it out. They father was on drugs, so I had nobody to help me. I went in the bathroom, I started crying, I was ready to slip my wrist. My oldest daughter banging on the bathroom door. So I said to myself, if I kill myself, who gonna take care of them? Came out, picked up my babies, put them in a double stroller, walking to the store to get the Pampers, looking at them like, who I'm buying Pampers for? I get in the store and buy a medium. That means it's too big for one child and too small for the other. When I was walking back, I was like, this will be the last time I will ever experience this. And I would say I got mad. I made a decision. right? Was things still rough since then, but it was never that rough, right? So I was receiving welfare, so I went across the street to Kentucky Fried Chicken and got a job in my sister's name because she was a year older than me.
Yeah.
Right, so it was like that determination times working 3 jobs. Just I never thought about my situation and just did, right? Because I had 2 kids to provide for, and they didn't ask to be here.
Right.
Yeah. So, I think so many times we focus on the problem instead of the solution. So my thing is, what is the solution? That's what I'm always, in any situation, what is the solution? Right? If a tenant don't pay, okay, what's the solution? Get them out, get somebody else in there. Right? What's the solution? I'm not going to think about the problem. And I think a lot of people focus on the problem versus the solution. Cry for a minute and let's get to it.
And I think, and I tell people all the time, I try to frame this the best way possible. Adversity is one of the greatest gifts if you decide to open the package. As rough as that moment was in the bathroom having to make that decision, without that moment, there is no Dating Christian today.
Correct.
Right? So we all have these key moments in our life where this moment can either break you and make you slit your wrist or make you just, not want to be here, or it can make you. Like, I remember the moment when I was, like, my father passed away and I'm crying on my ACT, but I can feel that moment. And I was like, yo, from this day, I'm going to take my life seriously because I have no choice. And so I just want our listeners to know, like, when you have those moments, when you become successful, you'll look back and say, without that, there's no this.
Yes.
Facts.
Correct.
And let's talk a little bit about this program you have, right? So obviously you're knowledgeable. You're putting on a masterclass live right now on this podcast. But like, if someone were to be like, I need a mentor in this, like, tell us a little bit about what they can experience if they decided to tap in with you.
So I have 3 different levels of experience working with me. One is a do-it-yourself, right? But you still get support, right? So you get the information on digital course. And then we have calls, bi-weekly calls. And then I'm big on mindset. So we have weekly mindset calls, right? And then I have a done with you program where I walk you through the entire process of getting the house, right? Gotcha. So all the steps. So on the call, I teach, I show, and then you do. While we on the call. And then I have a completely done for you service for busy entrepreneurs or busy people that just don't have the time to learn and just want me to find the property and get a tenant and everything for them. Okay.
And what would you say is something unique to you that, from a strategy standpoint, that most people don't know that you help your students execute on?
One is to use business credit cards. Right? To use business credit cards and just create a financing. If it's the DSCR loan, using personal loans, building, like, some people have bad credit, right? So just building business credit and using that to invest or getting partners. So I always tell people there's more than one way to skin a cat.
For sure.
Right? To make it happen. And again, start with what you have. If you only have $5,000, all right, let's find you a house for $5,000 and let's sell that. So maybe right now you can't do a buy and hold, right? So maybe you need to flip that a couple of times so you're able to buy, buy and hold property.
Okay. Now, can you give us a success story? Because I just love hearing testimonies of one of your students that maybe thought they couldn't do it. They tapped in with you, and then it ended up working out in their favor.
So actually, I would say one of my mentees, right, she was an older lady. She was 70 years old. Wow. And she wanted to buy a house. She was like, I need a house to leave to my kids. And she lived in Florida, and she bought a house.
Never too late.
She bought a house. And first when she was like, I was like, actually she was 76.
Jeez.
And I was like, you know what? I told my team, give her everything she needs. Not that, we give everybody everything they need, but
it's like
we want to go the extra. We want to go above and beyond. So that's one. And then just recently, one of my mentees, actually she had bought 2 properties, and she worked in the hospital, and they was giving out pink slips. She said people was crying, and she said she was smiling. She said because she was thinking about what I said, be prepared for the unexpected. Don't wait till you need the money. Be prepared. And she was like, she, had her 2 houses and was buying more and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Love that. There's a lot of things happening in the world. Markets are shifting as they always do. But what do you, like, 2-part question, what do you feel like is a prominent opportunity in real estate right now, and what's next for you in real estate?
Okay. So I would say investing out of state. And the reason I'm going to say out of state, right, you might be in one of those states, right? But with properties, it's cheaper because you're going to get a higher return on investment. Right? So I would say and then put it on Section 8. I don't care what they saying in the news about, Section 8.
Yeah.
Just get started, right? So, and then what's next for me? So I want to build a subdivision.
Okay.
So that's what I want to do.
How many properties?
At least a minimum 10.
Okay.
A minimum 10. Cool. So that's what I want to work on next year, building a subdivision.
What Melanin Money got to do to get a street? Melanin Money Lane. So
actually, So I don't plan on doing that by myself. Gotcha. So I want to, get investors and we all invest together and stuff like that. But that's on my bucket list because it was to build one new construction. I just did that in Atlanta, completed that. That's beautiful too. So go to my Instagram and see that. It's so beautiful. So the next is the subdivision.
Love that. Okay, we're gonna look out for that.
Do you give your students the opportunity to invest with you, or is that something that's coming?
I haven't yet. So this will be the first opportunity.
Wow.
And the only reason I haven't is because I have 2 grown daughters and they have husbands, and I have a 21-year-old and I had a husband. Yeah. So that's us right there. So I haven't yet, but for the subdivision, I definitely want to bring on, people to invest with that because I don't want to do hard money with that.
Yeah. So how long you been? Remind me again. How long you been in the real estate game?
Since 2006.
2006. Right. That's right.
It could have took her out because it was 2 years later. It was bad time. Yeah.
But you know what? So about that 2008, right? So people lost because they was over leveraged.
Facts.
Yeah.
Right? They was over leveraged. So I tell my men, don't over leverage. This is why we want those cheap properties. Right? We don't want properties 300,000, 400,000. Right? You want properties even in Cleveland, Detroit. You can get a duplex for under 100,000.
What?
But Cleveland is going up a little.
Still, I'm about to say, let me get.
Cleveland, you can still get one for like 130.
Okay, that's still good.
Yeah.
You can still get one for 130. So invest where you're gonna get the higher return on investment. Right? Buy from auctions.
Okay, so you've been in real estate for just a year shy of 20 years, right? If you could go back and think about maybe the top 2 or 3 things, if you're going back to when you got started, what would you tell yourself to get even further than you've been able to get over the course of the past 19 years?
1, mentorship.
Okay.
I didn't have any mentorship. 2,
you had HGTV.
I quickly learned they do not teach you anything, right? So I would say mentorship, leverage your credit, right, and buy everything in a business name, and invest out of state. Because when I started in Atlanta and was buying houses in 2006, $450,000, I could have been out of state for $10,000.
Sheesh.
$2,000.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I didn't know.
Right.
I didn't know. So when I look back, I would say definitely do creative financing, invest out of state.
Love that. Love that. Well, I think it's no secret that our platform, we're here to super serve people that look like us, right? I think that representation is key. Them seeing a woman like you who's able to get out of her circumstances and become a millionaire. So what does being a melanin millionaire mean to you?
It means that we made it.
We made it.
We made it in spite of, right? Because even just growing up, you didn't see anyone successful that looked like us. People that own stores, they look like us. I didn't know about a house because I lived in the projects. Yeah. But it just means that we made it.
I love that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, we appreciate you coming on the show. Amazing games, amazing gyms. I was taking some mental notes. I need your help getting some of these properties out of state. Yeah. But thank you so much for coming to the show, and for y'all, thank y'all for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you.